The town gathered near the trading post where several women waited beside wagons, hoping to find work, shelter, or marriage on nearby ranches. Among them stood Clara Bennett. She kept her hands folded tightly against her worn blue dress, while cruel whispers floated around her. Too big for ranch work. No man wants a woman like that. She'll eat a ranch empty. The laughter stung deeper than the cold wind. Clara lowered her eyes. She had heard those words her whole life. Then the sound of slow horse hooves approached. A tall cowboy rode into town on a black horse. His dark coat moved with the wind, and a faded scar crossed his jaw. His name was Ethan Cross, a rancher known more for silence and kindness. He stopped in front of the crowd. His sharp eyes settled on Clara. Not with mockery, not with pity, just quiet understanding. The trader laughed nervously. "You lookin' for a wife, Ethan? Better pick quick before the good ones are gone." Ethan dismounted slowly. The crowd watched as he walked past every woman until he stood directly before Clara. She looked away, embarrassed. "You don't want me," she whispered. Ethan studied her trembling hands. Then he gently lifted her chin. "I reckon," he said softly, "you're just right." The entire street fell silent, and for the first time in years, Clara felt seen. Ethan held out his rough hand. After a long pause, Clara placed hers in it. The cowboy never let go. The journey to Ethan's ranch took 2 days across dry hills and endless desert land. Most of the ride passed in silence. Clara sat carefully on the wagon seat, afraid to say the wrong thing. At night, they camped beneath the stars near a small fire crackling against the cold darkness. Ethan handed her a tin cup of coffee. "You ain't got to be scared around me," he said. "I'm not scared," Clara replied quietly. He looked at her. "Yes, you are." She stared into the flames. "Men usually laugh first," she admitted. "Then they grow cruel." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Well, I ain't most men." The firelight danced across his tired face. There was pain in his eyes, too. The next morning, while crossing a narrow trail near the cliffs, Clara's horse stumbled suddenly. She gasped. The animal panicked and reared violently. Before she could fall, Ethan lunged forward, grabbing her around the waist and pulling her safely against him. For one breathless moment, she was pressed against his chest. Strong arms held her carefully, protectively. Her heart pounded. Ethan looked down at her with concern. "You hurt?" Clara shook her head slowly. Neither of them moved right away. The desert wind passed softly around them, and something unspoken began to grow. Ethan's ranch sat beneath wide hills surrounded by golden grass and old wooden fences. It wasn't much. A barn, a small cabin, a lonely life. But Clara smiled softly when she saw it. "It's beautiful." Ethan looked surprised by her answer. Most people called it broken down. The days slowly became easier. Clara cooked meals in the tiny kitchen, while Ethan repaired fences and cared for horses. Sometimes she helped him feed cattle. Beneath the morning sunrise, little moments began stitching their hearts together. She laughed when Ethan tried baking biscuits and nearly burned the kitchen down. He smiled when she sang quietly while washing clothes near the river. One evening, they sat beside a campfire outside the cabin. The stars stretched endlessly above them. Clara wrapped a blanket around herself, while Ethan poked the fire with a stick. "You ever think about leaving all this?" she asked. "All the time." "Then why stay?" He looked out toward the dark hills. "Because it's the only place that still feels honest." Clara watched him carefully. "You've been hurt before." Ethan gave a dry laugh. "My wife died 3 winters ago." Clara's face softened instantly. "I'm sorry. She got sick. Couldn't save her." Silence settled gently between them. Then Clara whispered, "I know what loneliness feels like, too." Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, neither of them felt alone beside the fire. Weeks passed. The ranch slowly filled with warmth again, but Clara still carried sadness deep inside her heart. One afternoon, Ethan found her crying quietly behind the barn. "What happened?" She quickly wiped her tears away. "Nothing." "Clara," his voice softened. She finally broke. "My father tried marrying me off 3 times, she whispered. "Men would come look at me like livestock." Ethan's expression darkened. One man said I was too ugly to stand beside in church. Her voice cracked. Another told my father he'd rather buy another horse. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I started believing them. Ethan stepped closer slowly. "You listen to me," he said firmly. She looked up. "There ain't a thing ugly about you." Clara shook her head, crying harder. "You don't have to say kind things just because you pity me." Ethan suddenly grabbed her shoulders gently. "This ain't pity." His eyes burned with emotion. "This is the first time my house has felt alive since my wife died." Clara froze. The wind moved softly through grass around them. Then Ethan carefully brushed a tear from her cheek, and for one trembling second, it looked like he might kiss her, but footsteps interrupted them. A ranch hand approached quickly. "Ethan, riders coming from town." The moment shattered, but neither of them forgot it. 3 riders arrived before sunset. One of them was Clara's father. The moment she saw him, fear crossed her face. "Clara," the older man barked, "get your things. You're coming home." Ethan stepped between them instantly. "She ain't going nowhere unless she wants to." Her father sneered. "That woman owes me money. I raised her, fed her. She ain't property," Ethan growled. Another man rode forward, one of the cruel suitors from Clara's past. He laughed loudly. "Funny thing, Ethan, you actually fell for her?" Clara's face filled with shame again, but Ethan's anger exploded. Before anyone could react, Ethan punched the man hard off his horse into the dirt. The ranch fell silent. Ethan stood over him coldly. "You ever speak about her like that again," he said quietly, "and I'll bury you out in the desert." The man scrambled away in fear. Clara stared at Ethan in shock. No one had ever defended her before. Her father spat into the dirt. "You'll regret choosing her." Ethan never looked away from Clara. "No," he said softly, "I won't." The riders finally left beneath the darkening sky, but Clara's hand still trembled. Ethan stepped toward her carefully. "You all right?" Suddenly she burst into tears against his chest, and Ethan held her tightly beneath the fading sunset. That night, rain hammered against the cabin roof. Clara stood near the window, watching lightning flash across the hills. "I should leave," she whispered. Ethan looked up sharply. "What?" "I'm only bringing trouble to your ranch." He walked toward her slowly. "You think I care about trouble?" She turned away. "You deserve someone prettier, smaller, easier to love." Ethan's face broke with pain. He gently took her hand. "Clara, look at me." She finally did. Rain thundered outside while the lantern flickered softly between them. "I spent 3 years wishing I could feel something again," Ethan said quietly. "And then you walked into my life." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You make this place warm again." His rough thumb brushed across her hand. "You make me want to live again." A tear slipped down Clara's cheek. Ethan stepped closer. "So, don't tell me who I should love." The silence between them trembled. Then finally, he kissed her, slowly, tenderly, like she was something precious. Clara melted into his arms while the storm raged outside the cabin, and for the first time in her life, she felt beautiful. Spring arrived across the western hills. Wildflowers bloomed beside the fences, and warm sunlight poured across the ranch. The lonely house no longer felt empty. One evening, Ethan and Clara stood together watching the sunset paint the desert gold. The horses grazed quietly nearby. Clara leaned against him gently. "You know," she whispered, "they used to say no man would ever want me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Well, those men were fools." She laughed softly through tears. The wind moved through her hair, while Ethan wrapped an arm around her waist. "Strong, certain, loving. You still think I'm too big?" she teased quietly. Ethan looked at her with deep warmth in his eyes. Then he pulled her close against his chest. "No," he whispered. "You're just right for my arms." The sun disappeared slowly behind the hills as they stood together beneath the endless western sky. And for the first time in both their lives, home finally felt like a person.